You're seriously wearing that in here? You think people want to see ice at lunch? We don't serve folks like you first. You know that, right?
I'm just trying to order a sandwich, sir.
Yeah, well, maybe think about who you're working for.
Could I get the grilled chicken combo, please?
You're seriously wearing that in here? People don't want to see ice during lunch, and yeah, we don't serve people like you first. Maybe think about who you're working for. These words were not shouted in anger, and there was no threat behind them, yet their impact was felt across the entire restaurant. It was a firm response from the restaurant worker to the female ICE agent, calm on the surface, but deeply powerful in meaning. It was lunchtime at a restaurant in Minnesota. People were busy with their meals, some talking with friends, some in a hurry, the atmosphere completely ordinary. Then suddenly a female ICE agent walked in. The moment her uniform came into view, heads turned, conversations slowed, and for a few seconds, it felt like everything froze. The surprise on people's faces was clear because Minnesota was already tense at the time. ICE actions were being questioned, protests were happening, and fear was in the air. Many inside the restaurant thought the same thing. Was ICE here to take action? Was someone about to be detained? Was lunchtime about to turn into something much worse? The female ICE agent calmly walked straight to the counter and began placing her order as if nothing about the situation was unusual. But that was the moment when this stopped being just about food. The restaurant worker gave her that response, the one you just heard, calm, direct, and without backing down. No shouting, no argument, no chaos, yet the message was unmistakable. In that single moment, it became clear that this was not just about serving food. It was an expression of frustration and anger that had been building for a long time. People sitting nearby watched silently. No one stepped in, no one interrupted, but everyone understood what they had just witnessed. This was a form of protest, quiet, controlled, and deeply effective. What makes this moment stand out is that there was no crowd, no slogans, no signs, yet the message was unmistakable. Fear did not dominate that space, truth did. In a small restaurant in Minnesota, power did not come from the uniform, but from the courage to speak plainly. This moment shows that protest does not always happen in the streets or through loud chants. Sometimes the strongest resistance happens in the most ordinary places, spoken in the calmest words, and that is exactly why this clip matters. What happened next is why this moment refuses to fade away, not because of how loud it was, but because of what it quietly revealed inside that restaurant. Something invisible shifted in that space, a silent reset of the usual hierarchy where uniforms come first and ordinary people come second. No one announced it, no one applauded, yet everyone felt it. Plates began clinking again, conversations slowly returned, but the atmosphere was no longer light because people were no longer just eating lunch. They were processing what it meant to watch authority be questioned without shouting, without chaos, and without spectacle. What made the moment so unsettling was how ordinary it was. No barricades, no megaphones, no warning, just a counter, a menu board, and a decision made by someone with no institutional power behind them. The worker didn't have legal immunity, didn't have a badge, didn't have a system protecting them, only a job they could lose, and that risk is what gave the moment its weight. This wasn't performative outrage or a scene created for social media. It was instinctive, immediate, and unfiltered, which is why it traveled far beyond that room. The discomfort people felt didn't come from confrontation, but from recognition, because many had felt the same frustration but never spoken it, swallowing it at dinner tables, avoiding it at work, and carrying it quietly in public spaces. Then suddenly someone said it out loud, not dramatically, not eloquently, just plainly, the kind of truth that doesn't ask for applause but forces reflection. This moment didn't humiliate anyone or escalate into cruelty. The ICE agent wasn't shouted down or chased out. She simply stood there absorbing words she wasn't used to hearing, and that is precisely why it mattered. Power knows how to dismiss loud, chaotic resistance, but calm refusal leaves no excuse to ignore what's being said. People often misunderstand moments like this by asking who won, but that question misses the point entirely, because this wasn't about victory, it was about visibility, exposing the emotional toll of constant enforcement, the quiet resentment within communities, and the thin line between authority and intrusion in Minnesota. That line was already under strain, with communities watching, waiting, and feeling the pressure of uncertainty, reacting not just to individual actions but to patterns of fear and unpredictability that turn ordinary places into spaces of anxiety. When enforcement enters places meant for rest and routine, lunch stops being lunch and silence stops being neutral, which is why this restaurant became symbolic without trying to be. It showed how normal life collides with larger systems and how people respond. Some freeze, some look away, and sometimes someone speaks not because they plan to, but because the moment demands it. The clip spread so widely because it didn't tell viewers what to think, it simply showed something real, leaving people alone with their own reactions, discomfort, relief, confusion, and that internal response kept the conversation alive. The debate that followed mattered not because everyone agreed, but because it revealed how divided expectations have become, with some seeing disrespect, others accountability, some focusing on policy, others on humanity. What stands out most is what didn't happen afterward. No dramatic fallout, no arrests, no chaos. Life simply continued, yet the impact lingered, settling quietly into memory and reshaping how people think the next time authority enters an everyday space. That's why moments like this can't be reduced to headlines or sound bites. They aren't about one worker or one agent, but about how much space power occupies in daily life and what happens when ordinary people refuse to step aside, calmly and without spectacle. The restaurant returned to normal that day, orders were filled, tables cleared, people left, but something remained, a reminder that silence is not consent and calm does not mean compliance. And that reminder traveled far beyond Minnesota because people saw themselves in it. And if this clip stays with you, it isn't asking you to pick a side, it's asking you to notice something, how power moves, how people respond, and how rare it has become to hear truth spoken without performance. So if this story made you pause, think, or feel something, make sure to subscribe, because we bring you the moments that others rush past and the stories that deserve to be understood, not just watched.